Not so much with other roots, and that's where we're heading. Cube roots, fourth roots, fifth roots, sixth roots. Basically, you're just paying attention to odd or even roots, which is going to kind of help you with the problem. So you can extend the concept of square roots to other types of roots. These are the definitions. Sometimes I'm not a huge fan of definitions, but you'll see them in the book, so I kind of have to go over them with you. It says, for an integer of n is the integer, greater than 1. If you have a number raised to n that equals a, blah, blah, then b is an nth root of blah. It's a lot of blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you what they're talking about, okay? So let's say, for this example, we have 2 to the third equals 8. What's my b in that equation? What's my n? 3, and my a is 8, right? I can rewrite that like this. This is what it's saying. If this is true, then this is also true. That's what that is saying. See? If 2 to the third equals 8, then the cube root of 8 is equal to 2. You're just rewriting it. And this is a lot of what you're going to be doing in this section. Rewriting to solve. Okay? So let's do another one. If 2 to the 4 equals 16, how could you rewrite that to have the same equation, basically? Just like I did this one, how would you rewrite that one? The fourth root of what? 16 equals 2. If you see this, what does that mean? It means that what number times itself 4 times equals 16, correct? Okay. You got a clear picture on that, yes? All right, here we go. The index of a radical is just this. Let's say you have this. The cube root of 8, the 3 is the index. If you have the fourth root of 16, the 4 is the index. And you might see that terminology, just so you know. It's whatever the root number is. All right, let's practice some of this stuff. Now, find the indicated real root of a. Use the table on page 414 to help, if you need to. There's a nice little table, and it just kind of talks about even roots versus odd roots. So basically, all you have to do is remember this. For these kinds of problems, okay? N is the nth root of a. So you would set this up as this. 5, the fifth root of negative 32. And you may say, wait a minute, there's a negative underneath there. But when it's not square root, sometimes it's okay. Okay? When it's an odd number, it's okay. So if you were to look at page 14, let's just rewrite this like we did here. How could we rewrite this as a fraction? Do you know? It would be this. Ooh. And you don't need to know that. I'm just showing you right now. That would be the same thing. It's like negative 32. Stay with me. Stay with me. I'm just starting to teach it to you. Okay? The fifth root of negative 32 is the same thing as negative 32 to 1/5. And we're going to start working with this. Okay? Now, get your calculator out and take the fifth root of negative 32 and see what you get. It's what number times itself 5 times gives me negative 32. That's what you're finding out right now. I have no idea where my calculator is.
How do you do like a fit?
Oh, you go to the math buttons. First you put in a 5. Then you go to the math button.
Is this the X?
Let's see if I can
Yeah, it's the X.
put in a 5, go to the math button, you go to that number 5 there, and then negative 32. And you get negative 2. Well, let's do the same thing for fractions, okay? So let's say I wanted to evaluate this right here. I would just put in negative 32 with this little caret key, that's what I call it, little arrow, okay? Now, in some calculators, you should always use parentheses. I think for this one, it doesn't matter. And look, you get the same answer. Isn't that nifty? Can you see it? Okay? All right, so we found out that on the calculator, so when you're at home, if you're practicing this stuff, you can just go to the calculator. If you can't think of what number times itself 5 times is negative 32, it's negative 2. Okay? Let's do another one. So this is odd. Just pay attention to that. This is even. You're going to get 2 answers. When it's odd, you're only going to get 1 real answer, rational answer. Okay? So let's set it up. This is saying I want the 6th root of 1. Let's just think about it for a second. Let's think about it. What times itself 6 times is equal to 1? 1. But wait. Is it negative 1 times 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 negative 1? Also going to be positive 1? Yes. So when it's an even root, oftentimes you'll have 2. So that's what you kind of have to pay attention to. So the answer here, without even using the calculator, is 1 or negative 1. All right, so here we have an odd. How many answers do you think we're going to have? Just 1, okay? So it's the 5th root of 243, or, based on what I wrote here, how can I rewrite that, do you think? To the 1/5. Okay? These are the same values. So on your calculator, do it either way. Find out what the answer would be. What times itself 5 times is 243? Did you find out?
5, 3,
3. Okay? All right. Let's do this last one. The 4th root of 625. This is an even exponent. So you're going to have what? 2 answers. It's the same thing as 625 to the 1/4. What's the answer? What?
5.
Yeah. 5 or negative 5. Plus or minus 5. However you want to write it. Makes sense so far? You're just learning it. So here we go. All right. Evaluate. Now we're gonna bring in what you did in the last chapter a little bit, or one of the previous chapters. I can't remember. But I wrote this out here. Just keep this in mind. X to the 1/2 is the same as the square root of x. X to the 1/3 is the same as the cube root of x, which is kind of what I was showing you up here. X to the 1/4 is the same as the 4th root of x. Keep that stuff in mind, okay, as you work through this. Now, what we're going to consider is when we have 1/25 to the 2/3, I want you to think of it as this. Watch. 125. That's 125 to the 1/3 squared. Oh! Why? How did I come up with that? Do you remember a power to a power? What do you do to the exponents? Multiply. Isn't this the same thing as 1/25 to the 2/3? It is. And the reason you do that is because you can take the cube root of 125, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the cube root of 125 squared. What's the cube root of 125? Which is what? 5 squared, which is equal to 25. I rewrote this as 125 to the 1/3 squared because when you have a power to a power, you multiply, which would be the same as this. What's 1/3 times 2? 2/3, right? And the reason I do this is because I can take the cube root of 125, which is 5. 125 cubed is to the 1/3 is the same as the cube root of 125. You keep that in mind. Okay? That equals 5 squared, which is 25. Let's do another one. This I can rewrite as 8 to the 1/3 raised to the what power? -4. Does anybody know what 8 to the 1/3 is? Somebody said it. 2. It's the same as the cube root of 8, which is 2. 2 times 2 times 2. So I have 2 to the -4th. Oh, when I have a negative exponent and I can't have a negative exponent in the answer, what do I do with it? Put it in the bottom. 1 over 2 to the 4th, which you could leave your answer like that, or you could write it as 1 over 16. Okay? How would I rewrite this one? 4 to the 1/2 raised to the what power? 5. 4 to the 1/2 is the same as square root of 4, right? Okay, which would be 2 to the 5th, which is 32. Isn't this fun? See how the stuff from the previous chapters follows you? Okay, so this one, what would you do here? Anybody have any ideas? Right on. 9 to the 1/2 to the -1, which would be 3 to the -1, which I would write as what? 1 over 3 to the 1. I don't need to write the 1, so it's just 1/3. Pretty nifty. So you're going to be practicing this in your homework? You're going to be practicing this in your homework? Those are little stars. These 2 skills. Okay, now turn it over. Let's have some more fun. All right. In a power, if an exponent is a fraction, the denominator is the index when set up as a root. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, new skill. 8 to the 1/3. This is the index when you set it up as this. And we just did that. I mean, I know, yeah, but we got to take it a little further. So what if you had this? 2 to the 4th. What did I say that was equal to? Actually, it's 2 to the 1/4 I meant to write here. 2 to the 1/4 would equal 4th root of 2, which is the same thing we were doing, but now we're going to take it a little further. This is all the same that we were doing on this page. Everything's the same. What?
Yeah.
This is a different problem. Different problem. Let's do another one. 6 to the 2/3. Okay. What I'm saying up there is the denominator is the index. So you would write it like this. The cube root of 6 squared. Okay. Should we do another one? You got this? You got to be able to rewrite them. All right. Evaluate the expression using a calculator. Don't you like that? Round the results to 2 decimals if needed. So I like to get in the habit of using parentheses when you have a fraction exponent. Some calculators don't need it, some do. Just might as well do it just to be safe. So go ahead and do 22 to the 1/4 on your calculator and see what you get. Remember, it's the same as this. I'm going to keep throwing that at you. What'd you get? 2.17. It says round to 2 decimal places, if needed. All right, do this one. But first, before you throw it on the calculator, how would I rewrite it? How could I rewrite it like this method up here? How would I rewrite it?
6 to the square of 35 to the 5th.
Right. So this and this will give you the same answer on the calculator, which I didn't write down what it is. What is it? Somebody tell me. That's 2 decimal places. You guys agree? No?
19.35.
All right, that sounds like the consensus there. Okay, 19.35. All right, so this one here, wait a minute, let's do it backwards. How could I write this as a fraction exponent? Oh, all right on. These two have the same value. What do you get? What do you get? 6.81. What do the squigglies mean? Approximately. How would you write this as a fraction? Yeah, you do. Right. What does that equal? 9.65. Just seeing if you're awake. Is it negative? It's negative. It's an odd exponent, so I should know that. Okay. Solve the equation, use the calculator. But first we have to do a little work. You can't just plug x in on the calculators in the back. Stay with me. So we have to do a little work if we're solving for x. What are we going to do first? Divide by 6. Okay? When I do that, I get x cubed equals 64. If I want to undo cubing, what do? What do you think the opposite of cubing is? Cube root. So I got to take the cube root of both sides. X equals 4. Isn't that nice? Okay. All right. So what do you think you do on that one? How would you do this one? Not the cube root. The fifth root. You got to get rid of this exponent, so you take the fifth root of both sides. Okay, and what you end up with is x minus 8, and you find out what the fifth root of 100 is on your calculator. What times itself? 5 times equals 100. What'd you get? 2.51. And then you've got to finish it by doing what? Add 8. So x equals 10.51. Okay, divide by 3, x squared equals 36, and that is super easy, but are you going to have 1 or 2 answers? Yes, please. Plus or minus 6. Okay, again, you notice that this is an even, so you are going to have how many answers? 2, and you start by taking the fourth root of both sides. You get x plus 5 equals, does anybody know the fourth root? I bet you do. Think about it. It's 2. Oh, but not just 2. Plus or minus 2. Then you have to subtract 5. So what I get here is I have 2, positive 2 minus 5, which equals negative 3. And I have negative 2 minus 5, which equals negative 7. So those are my 2 answers. Yeah? Okay, but look at what fun we have to have with this formula. An exercise ball is made from 7,854 square centimeters of material. Find the diameter of the ball. The surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared. Okay, now wait a minute. I'm working with radius, but I need the diameter. And the diameter is what compared to the radius? Okay, so just keep that in mind when you give your answer. It's double the radius. So what number are they giving me here in that formula? The S. So plug it in. 7854 equals 4 pi r squared. Ultimately, I need to get r, which I can double. So what would I do here? I can get rid of 4 pi right now. You can whip that on the calculator. And you get 625 approximately. I don't think it's exactly 625. How do you do that? Do you know how to do the pi button? Well, let's try. 7854 divided by 4 times pi is right there. Oh, I didn't get that at all. Oh, I know why. You know why? Because I have to put that denominator in parentheses. It's dividing by 4 and then multiplying by pi is what the calculator is doing. It's following order of operations. So let's try it. 7854 divided by 4 times There we go. See, you have to be careful. Equals r squared. You take the square root of both sides. R equals 25 approximately. And what is my diameter then? 50 centimeters. Okay?